I've taken over 20 auditions for full-time orchestra jobs, and I want to share with you what finally worked for me and how I finally got my first full-time orchestra job. This video is part 3 in a multi-part series, so if you haven't seen parts 1 or 2 yet, you can either click here or follow the links in the video description. Part 1 is all about getting organized, and part 2 is all about preparation, so I definitely recommend watching those before watching this video, since I'll be referring back to things I talked about there in this video. Before we get to talking about the day of the audition, let's talk about the week or so beforehand. Sometimes I would find myself not really knowing what I should be doing a week or two before the audition, since by this point I'm ideally playing everything at a really high level, it's reliable, I've extensively recorded myself, and I've done a bunch of mock auditions. So what should I do? In the past, I've kept my practicing schedule about the same as it was before, or even increased it in the week leading up to an audition. However, I've come to realize that this might not be the best approach. For me at least, practicing more right before the audition only serves to somehow make me more nervous. I also run the risk of overplaying and feeling burned out and fatigued as a result. So instead of over-practicing, here are a few things that you can do that will likely give your audition presentation the extra push that it needs. Remember that playlist you put together in the organization phase? Now is a great time to break that thing back out. Listen to the pieces on your audition regularly, so you not only know your part really well, but also how your part fits into the rest of the orchestra. It may seem like overkill, but knowing the entire score on a more intimate level definitely translates into a confidence of presentation that committees will notice. I also strongly recommend playing your excerpts along with these recordings, since it's not only going to give you additional context to your playing, but this is literally what the job is going to be, so do this until you can confidently play along with the orchestras on your playlist. Now, this is a question that I've found myself asking more often than I'd like. What happens if it's the week before the audition and things still aren't working on an excerpt or two? It's super scary, right? The short answer here is what I remember an old teacher telling me, is that the excerpt is sort of like a car engine. When the engine's running smoothly, it's fun to drive, and you don't even really need to think about the mechanics of how it works, you just drive it. However, if the engine is running rough, it's misfiring, or just completely dying in the middle of your drive, obviously it needs to be fixed. The excerpt, if it's not running like it needs to, also needs to be fixed. So take the excerpt apart and put it back together. Be direct in identifying the problem, possible solutions, and troubleshoot it. Trust me when I say that playing it over and over again is not the answer, and you're likely making the problems harder to fix by repeating the problem over and over. I actually plan on making another video going deeper into this exact topic, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss it. This next helpful tip comes to us courtesy of the gaming world. People in video games will often joke to each other to go outside and touch grass.
Hello, average League of Legends players. Watch this and learn.
There's actually a lot of truth to this, since staying cooped up inside and doing nothing except grinding isn't good for anybody's mental health. Go meet a friend for lunch or coffee, go for a walk, go get ice cream, call your best friend or a relative. Distraction therapy can be really powerful, and it definitely shouldn't be overlooked. Being in a good place mentally will definitely have an impact on your playing, so take care of yourself. And then before you know it, the time has come. Today's the day. It's finally time to put your preparation to the final test. I want to share with you some of the things that I like to do on the day of the audition so that I give myself the greatest shot of playing my very best. So I'm a textbook overthinker. Seriously, if you look the word overthinker up in the dictionary, the first definition you would say, see Bobby Sharman. So it's probably a shock to no one that I try to plan for just about every scenario possible when I'm getting ready to head to the concert hall for an audition. First, let's talk about what to bring. Obviously, you're bringing your instrument and you're bringing your music and your bow and all of that, but sometimes audition timelines can be unpredictable and can sometimes run much longer than expected, so being prepared is essential. I like to make sure that I bring things like my phone charger, a spare set of strings, the tools necessary just in case one of my extension closers decides to loosen, headphones, a water bottle. All this stuff is just so that even if something goes wrong, I've planned for it and it's not a problem. The other thing I make sure to bring is food. Oftentimes auditions will have multiple rounds in the same day, so I have to make sure I take something to eat like Cliff Bars or something, in case I don't have time to get food in between rounds. Trust me, if you play your audition hungry,
gonna have a bad time.
The other food item I always bring is bananas. I'm not really sure the science behind it, but there's something about the potassium in bananas that helps to quell nerves, at least for me. I'll typically eat 1 or 2 in about the hour or so before I go on to play, and it seems to help a ton. Before you head out to the hall, have your travel already planned out for how you're going to get there. If you're driving, know in advance where you're going to park. Eliminate as many variables as you can so you aren't blindsided when you arrive. When you do arrive, you'll usually check in, get the list of excerpts for the first round, and be directed to a general warm-up room. Suddenly you'll be plunged into a sea of bass excerpts from all directions, and a lot of these players are going to sound really good. It's easy to be psyched out by this, but just remember that everyone else that's there is likely nervous too, so just stick to what you're doing and try to tune everything else out. This is where headphones I found to be particularly helpful, because with the headphones on, you'll be able to hear yourself, but a lot less of everyone around you. Now, it might be really tempting to do a lot of practicing in the general warm-up room, but I actually like to advise against this, since you don't want to play too much and then be tired and fatigued when you finally go out to play. I'll usually get my bass out, tune, and start with some slow scales. If by that point I'm not ushered into a private warm-up room, I'll very slowly play the notes of what's on the first round. I'll take frequent breaks so I don't wear myself out, and honestly, I'll just sit and listen to music for 5 minutes or so and then pick the bass back up and do it again. Eventually though, you'll be escorted into your private warm-up room, which may be anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours before you're scheduled to play. I told you, auditions can be unpredictable. If you're ever unsure of the timeline, it's a really good idea to ask the person guiding you or anyone in charge things like, are we running on time? Are things behind? Or is it possible for you to let me know when the candidate before me has gone on to play? And they're almost always happy to let you know. I almost always ask for a 5 to 10 minute warning because it gives me an idea of what to plan for. So now you're in a warm-up room by yourself. Bass is out, tuned, everything's ready to go. Again, in order to preserve stamina, try to resist the urge to do a bunch of practicing. I'll usually start by, again, going through the list slowly and making sure shifts are in tune and my sound is nice and warmed up. Then I'll put the bass down for a couple minutes and put my headphones on and listen to some music. And while I'm doing this, especially if I feel a little bit nervous, I'll do this sort of breathing cheat code. And that's to inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. There's something about this that just sort of resets everything to a calm, neutral state again. Then I'll pick the bass back up and I'll play the list slowly, but backwards this time. If they haven't come to get me by this point, I will practice starting each excerpt at tempo, just to make sure that my start inspires confidence. If the audition's running on time, at this point, someone will have come to get you and escort you to the audition location. Be advised that right before you go on, you may be able to hear the candidate before you playing. Don't pay attention to this, just focus on breathing and staying calm. Once it's your turn, you'll be ushered out to the stage, your candidate number will be called, Candidate 154, and from there, you're no longer allowed to speak. After you finish walking to the place that you're going to be playing, the silence in the room can be a little bit intimidating. Try not to be caught off guard by this. Try to, embrace this silence. And at this point, it's probably super tempting to set up really quickly and get to playing as fast as possible, since 1 second in that room can feel like 10 or 20 seconds. Just take your time. Set everything up calmly and patiently. Then once you're ready to go, just sit for a moment. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Focus on regulating your breathing, and then get ready to enjoy playing your instrument. But what happens if you mess up? Did your chances just drop to 0? Amazingly, no. I've been on the committee side of auditions as well, and if I'm listening and everything around that mistake is super solid, I'll often overlook it as a fluke or nerves or something. However, if you do make a critical mistake while playing, or it isn't as clean as you know you can do, you're always welcome to ask the committee if you can play that excerpt again. Motion to the proctor, and have them ask the committee for you. The worst they can say is no. However, I do believe that this should be used sparingly. I'd say only ask to play something again once in a round, since if you ask to play everything a second time, the committee's likely going to lose confidence in you. Just be judicious about it and be comfortable in shrugging off just minor inconsistencies, since often those tiny mistakes are not even heard on the other side of the screen. Then after you play, go pack up and go back to the group warm-up room to wait for the results of your block of candidates. Sometimes they call your candidate number to advance, and sometimes they don't. I'm also considering doing a video on what to do when you don't advance, so be sure to get subscribed so you won't miss that. Anyway guys, I think that's going to do it for this 3-part series. I finally won my full-time orchestra position on my 24th audition, after lots of not advancing at all, to a period of regularly making semifinals but not finals, and then a period of making finals and even getting runner-up at a separate audition. The things I've shared in this video are far from an exhaustive list, and not everything I've said will work for everyone. I just wanted to share some of the steps that finally worked for me so that maybe I can help someone else along on their audition journey. But I want to hear from you. Did I leave something out that you found really helpful in your preparation? Let me know down in the comments. If you've made it this far in the video, or even through this entire series, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you watched, please consider leaving a like on this video and getting subscribed to the channel. Subscribing is completely free, and you can always change your mind later. And with that, I hope you're having a fantastic day today, and I do look forward to seeing you in another video. See ya. Know in advance where you're going to park. Eliminate as many variables. Start with some slow scales. If I'm still not ushered into a private room up warm, if the audition's running on time, somebody will have come to get you at this point and audition you into the escort room.